Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome to my brand new channel called Shark Investing. And my channel is a channel where we come to discuss the stock market and we discuss different investments in different stocks. So that's my main goal, is just to have a discussion forum where we can discuss different companies, to discuss if they're good investments, bad investments, look at different aspects of the companies and what different people are saying, get some opinions, and try to sort through whether a particular company is a good investment or a bad investment. Now, today is a really interesting day because today, it's February 2nd, 2022. One aspect of this channel is I want to document certain things. I want to document certain things that are going on, so that we can refer back and we can say, oh, okay, this was happening at this time, and follow how things play out over time, because I find that very difficult to do. Even the charts, stock market charts, I find that they don't really show the actual peaks and lows sometimes. Sometimes it like cuts out what the real bottom was. So it's very difficult to know what kind of opportunity was there, that kind of thing. So that's part of what I want to document. Today is an interesting day for several reasons. One, after hours, Meta or Facebook has gone down about 20%. I believe also Spotify today got nailed big time. So Spotify went down about 18% at one point and then shot back up. So it was almost like a $30 spread in one share of Spotify at one point. Like within a matter of an hour, it was like went down big time and then shot back up. So, but at one point it was down 18% today. Yesterday was also a very interesting day. One of the stocks that I pay attention to is Cedar Fair or Cedar Point stock. I live in Ohio, and so obviously Cedar Point has meant something to me throughout my life. So that's one company that I watch. And yesterday, SeaWorld made a bid, an unsolicited bid, to buy the company of Cedar Point. Now, I've been watching Cedar Point for quite some time, and it's been stuck around like mid 40s to low 50s. It's just been stuck oscillating in that range. And then SeaWorld comes through and they put a bid out for $3.4 billion, supposedly, for Cedar Point stock. So that bumped Cedar Point up by like 13%, and then it was up another huge amount today. I think it's at like $58 a share right now. Very interestingly, several days ago, I saw a news headline by Deutsche Bank. And Deutsche Bank is another company to talk about that has really gotten nailed. I believe in 2007, Deutsche Bank was at $140 a share. And then earlier today, it was like $14.30 to $14.50 per share. That's another company to talk about a different time. But several days ago, Deutsche Bank made a recommendation on Cedar Point and recommended it as a buy, and they said the price target was going to be $68 a share, and that it was best in class for the theme park companies. So right now it's at 58. That was driven up to 58 after SeaWorld's offer on Cedar Point, but there's still, it seems to me, a little bit of room left to run from $58 to $68 per share. The Cedar Point stock is very interesting. So it's a limited partnership, which is not the typical structure that you see on the stock market. There's several limited partnerships I know of. One is Energy Transfer, and another one is Cedar Fair. So a little bit different structure. I've got to do some research, more research, find out what that means, but we'll have to come back to that at a later date. However, why I became interested in Cedar Point when I was a child. See, these things all go back to childhood, right? When I was a child in school, the best field trip we could ever go on was going to Cedar Point. So that was a major thing to look forward to. I loved going to Cedar Point. And then early in the pandemic, I saw Cedar Point get hammered, and it got hammered down to $12 per share, then $18 per share, and it spiked back up pretty quick. But there was a major opportunity in Cedar Point in the early pandemic, which is very interesting. But it continues to run. Cedar Point has not, I mean, I believe probably before the pandemic, I don't know exactly, but it was probably about $60 per share. However, it never like went crazy like Tesla. It never went to pre-pandemic levels. So I think Cedar Point definitely has some room to run because many stocks have surged up higher than pre-pandemic levels. And Cedar Point, I believe it was open last year. I think people had to wear masks, but it was still open. And then also for Halloween weekends, it was open as well. And I think they had good attendance for last year. So hopefully COVID, I'm hoping that it will let up soon and theme parks and things will go back to kind of more normal operations. People would get out. I think over the summer, I think it's going to be a better situation for places like Cedar Point. So definitely, I think some room to run on that one, but we'll have to talk more about that later. So you might be wondering, who is this guy? How did he get interested in the stock market? So one thing I would like to talk about in this introductory video is how I became interested in the stock market. And once again, it goes back to childhood. So one thing I tell my friends, as many people as possible, I tell them, if you have a kid, buy them some stock, okay? Stock is a very interesting thing. It's an equity. It gives you some ownership in a company. So if you have a kid and you want to help them out, buy a share in a company that sounds really cool. Like maybe a kid likes Walt Disney. So you can buy them a stock in Walt Disney and they can walk around saying, you know what, I own Walt Disney, because literally when you buy a stock, you become an owner. So I think that's a super cool thing to do for children, you know, rather than like a little wage or allowance or whatever. Give them a stock savings fund. And that stock savings fund over time will likely grow. If you look at where the Dow Jones was at when George Bush was president in the 1990s, it was at 3,500. And now the Dow Jones is about 35,000. That's up by a multiple of 10. So keep that in mind, how stocks have appreciated over time. Markets are opening up. There's free trading now, so you don't even have to pay to buy a stock anymore. Even some companies will give you free stock. So I think the masses are going to start investing more and more in the stock market. So it's going to, the supply is going to become limited. The demand's going to become greater. And usually that's what drives prices up in business. So the other thing to think about, you know, I just think it's a great idea. Buy a stock for a kid, get him a company that might give him a dividend. So back to my childhood, my parents bought me stocks in a company called Baker Hughes. So unfortunately for Baker Hughes, they were going out of business is my understanding, and Halliburton bought them out. So if anybody's ever heard of Halliburton before, cheers to you, because it's not a company that is necessarily mainline company that you would see all around. If you live in Texas, you probably know more about Halliburton. Or if you remember a recent politician, Dick Cheney, he was vice president of the United States. Well, he was CEO of Halliburton at one point. So Halliburton is somewhat of a diversified company, but they do participate in oil field services. And maybe, I don't know if everybody knows about this, but they also have some kind of branch that deals with national defense. But that's not my point. My point is to talk about my parents. They bought me stock in Baker Hughes, got bought out by Halliburton. So when I was a kid, Halliburton was literally sending me a check every quarter for $7.25. Not that much, but when you're a kid, it's pretty cool to get a check at all. So I was watching Halliburton when I was a kid. And the great thing about that is when you own stock, you start paying attention to what the price is. So as a child, I was looking at the price of Halliburton, watching it go up and down, watching it fluctuate, and saying to myself, oh, this would be a great time to sell Halliburton. This would be a great time to buy it. So I think I did actually sell it once when I needed some money for like school or a car or something. And then I bought back in when I felt like it went low. So I bought back in and I sold out again when it was high, probably around $25 a share. Then it went up to 45. I sold out again. So because my parents bought this stock, it got me interested in investment and, you know, investment equities, how to invest to make money. I started thinking about these things as a kid. So great idea, buy some stocks for some kids. So that's where some of my interest in the stock market came from. And then I realized, okay, stocks fluctuate, prices go up and down, periodic cycling, that kind of thing. And so once I got out of college, got a job, made a little bit of money and stuff, and so I started waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a recession. Now, unfortunately for me, I didn't really understand everything about this. So when the pandemic hit, there was a recession. So I said, well, prices are down. I've been saying to myself for years, wait for a recession, and that's when you start buying. So I made a brokerage account. So actually, I had a brokerage account previously. Now, this is an interesting story too. I had a brokerage account with Scottrade. Scottrade got bought out, so now I have a different brokerage account. So then I had a brokerage account, so I linked it to my bank account, whatever, and I started trading some stock. So that's one thing. To get ready to trade stock, you need a brokerage account, and you need a way to get money into your brokerage account. So that's one recommendation. If you are getting involved with buying stock, pick a brokerage account that you think is dependable and safe, and then get ready to trade some stock. So you have to decide what kind of stocks you're going to trade. Me, I like to buy stock in companies that I've heard of, or companies that seem like mainstream companies. So something I've heard of, or, you know, it has like a nice name, you know. So that's one thing I look for. If it's a name that's totally out there and I never even heard of it, I'm just like, okay, I don't think I'm going to buy this. But sometimes I do anyway. So that's how I got involved in trading stock. So that's a little bit of history for you. Then when the pandemic hit, I got a little bit more involved, and I find it very interesting. And I think financially, the world is becoming a bit of a tougher place. So, you know, the problem is nowadays, it's hard to get enough money to buy a house. It's hard to pay off a house. And after school, a lot of people are in debt. So it's my opinion that you need to find some way to make more than you make at your actual job. So the stock market is one way to do that. But you can also lose money. So you have to be very, very careful with it, and you have to understand the risks. So the goal of this channel is to discuss some of these things together and to look at different opportunities, and hopefully to find some opportunities that are very exceptional. Over the last 2 years, we've seen some very, very exceptional things happen. And if people had the courage to take risk with their money when those opportunities started, then they could be much better off today than they were 3 years ago. So it's my opinion that people should get involved with the stock market, that it's a great opportunity, and it's a great way to get some exposure to the economy. It's a great way to make money when you're not actually doing all the work, okay? So if you buy stock in ExxonMobil, the ExxonMobil company, the executives, they're actually working for you. And you get to vote. You get to vote on who the executive board is. You get to find out a little bit about the company. And it's very interesting. If you watch the things that were said about ExxonMobil over the last several years, you'll see some very interesting things. And you'll see people were saying some terrible things about Exxon when it was very low. But now the price has peaked up again with the price of oil as it recovered. And now people are saying good things about ExxonMobil. I find it very interesting how negative people were about that company for so long, when it was really a great opportunity. ExxonMobil, in my opinion, was one of the titans of the stock market, gave a dividend for 30, 40 years without fail. So people who bought ExxonMobil stock over the last 30, 40 years, I believe that they've done quite well, especially now that the price has recovered once again to $80 per share. I believe it was over $80 per share the other day. So that is another company that we should definitely touch base on and discuss the qualities of the company. And it's hard to know. It's hard to know where the economy is going to go. If it's hard to know what might happen, but there is always a degree of uncertainty in everything. So even with a chemistry experiment, right? When we were doing these chemistry experiments in high school, there's this little thing called uncertainty, and there's always uncertainty with anything. So I would not let uncertainty stop you from living your life and from doing things. So that is one thing to look at. When you talk to somebody, you can always find somebody to say something. That's not going to work. That's not going to be good. That's not going to happen. You can always find that line, but hopefully we'll find some principles that can identify those exceptional opportunities in the stock markets, and hopefully we'll be able to make some gains and win. But I mean, any investment comes with risk. I've lost money on many investments, so keep that in mind. You do not have to listen to any recommendation that I make, and you have to really make decisions on your own, because I am not here to tell you what to do with your money or how to invest. But hopefully we can find some meaningful things to talk about, learn together, and be better off in the future because of it. All right, well, this is the introduction, so that's quite an introduction to my little channel here, and hopefully we'll be able to grow together and come up with some good strategies and meet with great success in the future. We'll see you next time.